Well, good morning, my YouTube friends. Today we're both going to try to learn something new, and the new thing is how to clean our Onan generator slip rings. This is, of course, what we own here is the Onan 5500, but also apply to the Onan 7000 and many other Onan generators. So let me show you where your slip rings are. Alright, so on this model, our slip rings are right back there. My finger is, so that's the brush block. We got to get the brush block out first and get in there and attempt to do this. So there's a company that makes a product for this, but it doesn't really, I don't think it's, well, it's like $40 I think, but it's difficult to use in this application to get in there and use. I think it's called a slick stick is the name of it. But I'm going to attempt to do something a little bit different, something you can make yourself. So let me gather up a few tools and we'll get started. Okay, let's get this show on the road. I got me few tools lined up here beside of me. And that device or tool I was talking about that you can buy, but I just don't think it's going to work well for the 5500. It's called the G-Man Slick Stick. Now I like this company, Flight Systems, because they offer aftermarket voltage regulators for these Onan generators and a lot of other generators, which can save you some money. And from what I read, they may be even actually better than the factory regulator. But the reason we're doing this process, this cleaning, is because we don't want to buy a regulator. We don't want to risk burning up our voltage regulator. So that can happen, as it tells you here, due to dirty slip rings, you get higher and higher resistance until it can cause the regulator to fail prematurely. And I've talked to a few people where that's happened too, and it's an expensive part. Even the aftermarket regulator, I think, is about $525. The OEM Onan factory regulator is over $600, but they may possibly still be made in China. And the aftermarket regulators, they're a little bit more simpler. They don't have as many shutdown algorithms to them. Where the factory regulator, if your voltage is off a little bit high, a little bit low, it shuts down. It shuts down for several different reasons, and sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to troubleshoot and stuff. Well, I guess they try to make it simpler, and they've eliminated that. I'll explain that further toward the end of the video when I get back in the RV. But anyway, so that's what I got to doing some research on this thing, because I realized our RV's got like 475 hours on it. And I called, and here's the Onan service manual. Of course, it'll tell you also, how to clean it is to use Scotch-Brite. That's slip rings. That's the process Onan recommends. And so I got me a box of Scotch-Brite here. So then I thought, okay, now I need to make me a stick similar to this. So I got me a paint stick, and I cut me a piece of Scotch-Brite 1 inch wide. I'm gonna throw me some tape around it. So I'm gonna make my own G-Man Slick Stick and see how this works. That's my goal anyway. And when I talked to the Onan tech, they recommended about every 150 hours to remove the brush block and clean the slip rings to keep everything a good connection. So one thing I'm going to do first as an experiment, I'm going to want to measure the resistance before I do the cleaning, so I can do a test before and after. Alright, so it took all of 2 minutes. I've manufactured my own slick stick. See what I did? I just folded the Scotch-Brite around the stick and then put me a good layer of tape on both sides. Got it good and tight. Now this is version 1.0. We'll see how it works. If it don't work, I'll do something different. Because the first step here is, well, I want to do a measurement. So I'm going to unplug these wires. Now it tells you here they're labeled F1 and F plus, so you put top and the bottom, so you can put them back in the right position. I did talk to him. It's not critical, because I asked him, the tech, if it really mattered, and he said that you could go either way. But they just like the negative on top. So if you get into yours and spin reverse, just put them in the right way, because sometimes people may be in there and could have been in your generator in the past, unplugged them and plugged them up wrong. So don't freak out if your letters or wires are reversed. Yeah, I can see this is going to be some difficult filming, trying to get this in this hole. So unplug one wire, unplug the other wire. Alright, now I'm going to get me a meter on these two terminals, and I'm going to see what kind of resistance we have and compare it to the book. Alright, you see I've connected my leads. Just clamped them on there. As you can see, our resistance is at 32. to the book. They want us to have 29.34. For my model is the HGJAB. So just a little bit tick higher than what the book calls for. But maybe after we clean this, hopefully those numbers will come down. All right, now let's remove the brush block. Now you see I got a big long extension here, which makes it pretty easy. You just go in here and do that. Now if you don't have this big long extension, no worries. You still got enough room to get in here with a ratchet. It's kind of tight, but you get a few clicks. So you do have enough room to get it without an extension, but the extension makes it a little bit nicer. But one thing to be mindful is you don't want to drop that screw down into Never Never Land. So, because then you have to get your endoscope out and fish it out. So I'm trying to be careful about this. Make sure I get it and don't drop it. Okay, there it is. You pull it out like this, then get that screw out there, so you don't risk dropping it. So we got that done. Find a little spot to put it. All right, easy peasy. Got that out of the way. Let's pull out the brushes. Now we've got the brushes that we can inspect them and see what the book says about their lengths, what they're supposed to be. Okay, so brush block is out, and for the book we need, because you can see right here the book tells you 7/16 is minimum. Got me a 7/16 wrench, makes it handy to measure things that way, and I'm within spec. Barely, but I'm within spec. And remember I talked about the wire position, and if you look at your wires here, they're labeled. You have to pull it out of this wire loom to see it. So you got F negative and F positive, so you put your wires in the right spot. Alright, so now what's next? Okay, so step one, we want to turn both breakers off, so that way when we start this up to clean the slip rings, we're not got no current going nowhere. Okay, attempt number one. I'm going to push the starter button. I have to hold my finger on it, because if I let go, the engine will die, because I've got the brushes out of it. And with the brushes out, it's not sensing any voltage, so the engine will not continue to run unless I hold down on the start button. So that's what I'm going to do, and let it run for a little bit. I'm going to get in here with my little stick, and we'll see what happens. Okay, that does look a whole lot shinier already with attempt number one. That worked out pretty good. Okay, attempt number two. You can see where it rubbed there, so I loosened up and repositioned it so I can get some new surface area. So let's try this again. Looking shinier. Let me do this a couple more times. Alright, let me show you what I've been doing. You can see where, I'm getting the light here where I can see it. So you see where I've repositioned it. I take the tape loose and I reposition it every time. So I've done it, it looks like 5 times. I might do it a couple more. I'm just going to flip it over and now use this side. Tape it to my stick and do a couple more treatments and we'll see what it looks like. So let's take a close look at these brushes. Notice how one brush is much longer than the other. That's pretty odd. Why would one wear quicker than the other? But it is almost at the limit. You know, for our book here we want a minimum of 7/16, and that one brush is right at, it's got that 7/16 wrench. I'm right at it, or just below. So it looks like I'll be ordering me a set of brushes. See the other side. Both sides good shape. So I guess that'll be another video in the future. How to change, replace your brushes. I'll be curious when I get a new set how much longer they are compared to the one. This is only has 500 hours on it. It's kind of surprising it's wore down that much, but it is. Alright, let me show you from scratch how I make this thing. So get you a box of Scotch-Brite. I'll put a link to below the video. And then just take your pair of scissors. Get your pair of scissors. Cut your strip about 1 inch wide. Once you get that cut, just fold it around like this and give me some tape. Let's get in the camera shot. Alright, get some tape. Where's the end? I can't find the end of this stuff. Alright. There you go. That's all you gotta do. And that's how you'll make your own custom-made slick stick. That worked out really well for me. So now we're ready to put this back together. Let me get you a close-up view of what the slip rings look like now. Okay, here you go. I took some photos too, so I'll do it before and after. You can see how shiny they are. And they'll tell you they should look like a brand new copper penny. So that's pretty close to a new penny. So now all we're going to do is just reassemble it, and we'll check some resistance readings. Okay, so I got my camera clamped in place. Let's see if we can't reassemble this. Alright, here's my new brushes, which I'm going to get a new set ordered. Oh, another tip, just as a reminder, remember when you put this in here, always go straight in like this. You know, don't be thinking you want to go sideways with it and get in there. Don't do that. You want to keep it like this and just go straight in and apply light pressure to the slip rings, and that'll make them nice and shiny. Alright, let's put our brushes in. Still got a lot of spring on it, I noticed. Okay, now time to find my 10mm screw. It's the tricky part because you don't want to drop that down in there. Make for a bad day. Here's that little clamp. Screw in there. Get it started. Okay, got it started a couple turns. Now I'm gonna get that long extension. And my ratchet. Focus. There we go. All right. It's just plastic. Don't get carried away. Now, let me take a reading on this while I still got it apart before I hook up these wires. You see I got my wires hooked up, and you see here we got 28.6, but before we had what, 31, 32 ohms resistance. So I have made an improvement. So that's more better. So you see I got my wires back the way they belong. Turn my breakers back on. Put the cover on, and I guess that's all I gotta do. We'll turn off the shore power. I'm gonna start it up and check our voltages inside. So let's do that. Let me point out something, because you couldn't see this in the video what I was doing, because with the way this is designed, once you can hold this button down and actually the starter will kick out. The starter does not continue to spin. In fact, I remember seeing it in the manual somewhere. There's a light because a lot of times, like when you're inside the coach, you push the starter button. It's hard to tell sometimes when it's starting and running because you can't hear it. But I don't know if all the generators are that way. But this one is. You can push and start, and you'll hear the starter engage and then disengage, even though you got your finger on the button. So let me give you an example. Okay, so remember what I had before? I had the wires unplugged. But they're not good. Okay, now with those wires unplugged, it's not going to sense any voltage. It's not going to allow itself to continue to run. I don't know why it runs maybe 15, 20 seconds, I'm not sure. So here's what I was doing, when you couldn't see it in the camera shot. While I was putting this little device in here, out of camera shot, I was starting this up, and I'll show you how long it runs. Okay, I'm gonna put this out here just as another option. Now, if for whatever reason it freaks you out having the engine run while you're sticking stuff back in there, you can unplug this wire here. This is the electric solenoid to the carburetor. Its job is it controls the flow of fuel. So when the engine shuts down, it shuts the fuel off to the carburetor so no fuel can flow. And so when you unplug this, it's going to send 12 volts of current when you go to start it, but it's not going to open up the plunger, allow fuel to flow. So in that case, you can crank it and it'll never start. So if you want to do it that way, you get your stick in position, have someone else just push the button. But the thing with that is the starter is always cranking, and you don't want to get carried away. You want to pause between, let the starter cool off, wait a little bit, then hit it again. See, it won't start. So by doing that way, every time you hit the start button, the generator is going to be spinning, and you have a chance to clean it as it rotates. So for some people, you may feel safer. You may feel safer doing that. But if you want to start the engine, let it run, just do it the way I did it. There you go. Okay, now we're inside, so if we did everything right, when I start up, we'll have voltage here. Let's see what happens. Okay, she's running. Give it a second for the transfer switch to do its thing. There we go. We have power. 120 volts on one leg and 118 on the other. If you're wondering what these little devices are, I installed this some years ago because I got a 50 amp service in this RV, and I wanted to monitor the amperage and load on each leg. It's a pretty handy thing to have. I've seen some newer RVs have these, and I made these or installed them some years ago. Pretty handy little device to have. But anyway, my slip rings are now clean, and hopefully I'll get long life out of that regulator. Let me go show you something. Okay, so now here's a picture of what you don't want to happen. Here's a picture of an Onan 5500 circuit board that is burned up. This is one of my YouTube subscribers sent this to me. I was helping him do some troubleshooting, and turned out that was his problem. Now he got his board from Flight Systems, his replacement board, right here. And you see today it's $525, and they explained to you how they don't have all the shutdown stuff that the original Onan does. And in fact, it's made in the USA, 2-year warranty, and it's not made in China like the original Onan board is. So it might be a good option for you if you happen to smoke a board. And here's the original Onan board. You can see is $680. So it's well worth your time to clean the slip rings, hopefully to avoid having to replace a board. That's not a cheap. And then also you got to think about how many people replace the board and don't stop and clean the slip rings. Do they end up smoking another board? Don't know. Something to think about. Anyways, thanks for watching. Have yourself a blessed day. See you. Bye.